We are getting breaking news around the Clarity Act here in the United States. President Trump and his administration are set to meet with the biggest leaders in the crypto industry on Wednesday, August 19th. You're getting reports that companies like Coinbase, A16Z, Ripple, and so many more will be in attendance. I personally think Brad Garlinghouse will be in this meeting, and I will show you why in this video. We also have the former House Financial Services Committee Chair Patrick McHenry telling Bloomberg that the Clarity Act will pass and that big banks will turn into crypto's biggest supporters. A lot of people are sharing and talking about this clip. I have this and so much more in this video. Let's go with this article from Politico to kick us off. This is Jasper Goodman and Declan Hardy. The White House is expected to host a gathering next Wednesday for officials from the cryptocurrency and prediction market industries, according to three people with knowledge of the matter who were granted anonymity to discuss unannounced plans. The details of the gathering remain in flux and it's unclear who will attend, the people said. The event may also feature executives from the traditional financial world. It's unclear if President Trump will attend. The White House did not immediately respond for a request for comment. Crypto and prediction markets, the two busiest areas of finance, have become major flashpoints in Washington, whereas Trump's regulators have embraced both. The meeting is set to take place one day before the Commodity Futures Trading Commission will hold a meeting for its new Innovation Advisory Committee, a panel made up of executives from top crypto, gambling, finance, prediction market companies, among others. It comes as the cryptos industry's top Washington priority. A sweeping market structure bill known as the Clarity Act is pending in the Senate. The chamber is set to take the bill up next month when lawmakers return from their August recess. We're getting new reporting from Eleanor Mueller, who is a White House reporter for Semaphore. She says executives from Coinbase, A16Z, Ripple, and Chainlink, plus Kalshi and Paradigm, as well as the Digital Chamber, are among those expected to attend Wednesday's meeting at the White House. With people familiar with the matter tell her Trump plus Selig and Atkins are also expected to partake. So the head of the CFTC and the SEC are expected to be there. Some of the people said, but it's unclear whether they will attend. The people described Wednesdays as a kickoff for the inaugural meeting of the CFTC's 35-person Innovation Committee on Thursday, which organizers had initially hoped to host at the White House earlier this summer. And so this is why I believe Brad Garlinghouse will be there. We know Ripple will be there, and this is going to be a day before this meeting. And the CFTC appointed members of this new panel, Brad Garlinghouse is one of the members. So he should be in Washington for this kickoff, right? You're going to have people like the CEO of Uniswap, the CEO of Coinbase, Brian Armstrong, the CEO of Polymarket. You have the CEO of Bullish and NASDAQ, Chairwoman Adina Friedman, a big name. Of course, Brad Garlinghouse is right here. You have the FanDuel president, Bitnomial president, CEO of Kalshi, CEO of Crypto.com and Grayscale, CEO of the ISDA, DraftKings, Kraken, Robinhood CEO, Blockchain.com CEO. This is the who's who of meeting. I would imagine Brad will show up looking spiffy as ever. And I think he's kind of been MIA in recent discussions around the Clarity Act. And I know the XRP community would love to see him show up. Let me know what you guys think below. Is he going to be there? Do you think this information does connect him to this meeting that's going to happen on Wednesday at the White House? I'd love to hear from you guys. All right. BlackRock supports Clarity. Fidelity supports Clarity. Goldman supports Clarity. Trump supports Clarity. Citi supports Clarity. Clarity is coming. It's only a matter of when and not if. I thought that was very well said by Ted Pillows. We also have this great clip from Michelle Kirby, Clarity Act revolutionizing U.S. payments and the Internet of Value. Legal uncertainty is shaking up crypto and finance. Watch this.
You guys have said, let us know what the landscape looks like so we can maneuver through it. So you've got the Genius Act passed, but the Clarity Act is still being held up by banks in many cases that have real problems with it. And some of that might be that they sense you guys are stepping on their air hose and they don't like the new opportunities that other people are seizing. So give me your assessment of when the Clarity Act might really finally pass.
Well, we're hoping as soon as possible, because I think it's really important that people understand that this is more than just any old financial regulation. This whole area, starting with the Genius Act, is really an upgrade of the U.S. payment systems, and it allows us to win in the next generation of the internet, which is the Internet of Value. And so in some ways, it's very important for economic and national security that the U.S. be able to lead. And right now, there are many financial institutions, traditional financial institutions, that really want to get into this space. They want to experiment. They want to be a part of it. They want to start moving value on chain.
Sure.
But the lack of legal certainty is holding them back. So it's a really important law.
All right, We also have this clip here. This is the NOAA CEO, says that the banking lobby is trying to trade favors to influence the Clarity Act.
Behind the scenes, we don't know what's actually happening because potentially the U.S. The banking lobby is trying to push this, but then to trade favors in return. We also have the Durbin Act, which is basically reducing interchange for banks. So we don't know exactly what's happening. I personally don't think it's that of a big deal. I think capital flight with rewards might be around 1 or 2%. But again, net, it will grow the dollar. It will grow the expansion of dollar. But of course, I think the banking lobby just realized with the Genius Act, they gave too much away. Now it's time to step in and really make sure that we get things right, but also trade other things in return.
All right. And then also here's the clip that a lot of people are talking about. Let me go ahead and play it. This is Patrick McHenry. He was the former House Services Financial Committee chair. He's been a very big advocate for the crypto industry, trying to move innovation forward, of course, and bills in Congress. He is now, I think, a Bloomberg contributor, and he has a lot of connections in Capitol Hill. So if there's anyone knowing kind of what's going on, might be Patrick McHenry.
On deposit flight, these stablecoin yields products have been out in the marketplace for 4 and 5 years. You've not seen deposit flight, but they've got to shoot their shot. Clarity Act will be passed later this year, and they've got to do everything they can to maintain their political power. The banking industry does. They are making a last-ditch effort. That's what all the banking industry can do at this point, is to try to bring this up at town hall meetings and when people are at home and out of Washington. It's falling on deaf ears, though. This major piece of the bank's lobbying effort against the Clarity Act is that by allowing yields on stablecoin products, you're going to have massive deposit flight. The truth is the banking industry and the banking lobbyists in Washington have not stopped the death of small banks in America. We have 2,000 fewer banks than we did pre-financial crisis. A lot of that has to do with the cost of being a bank in the United States. The banking lobby hasn't addressed that in any substantive way. So they're turning their ire to crypto in order to stay together for the banking associations and their political power. Point one. Point two, I would say, is that on deposit flight, these stablecoin yields products have been out in the marketplace for 4 and 5 years. You've not seen deposit flight. There are numerous studies from universities, from the Federal Reserve, from other entities across our government that have shown this fight against deposit flight is just a fiction of the banking industry. But they've got to shoot their shot. Otherwise, Clarity Act will be passed later this year, and they've got to do everything they can to maintain their political power. The banking industry does. The establishment is the establishment for a reason. Once they get in power, they get entrenched in power, and that's what we've seen from traditional financial products. And this is what we're seeing in the lobbying effort, especially they're tooting their own horn in Washington very loudly this August that they are showing their political power. We'll see in the fall if that, in fact, matters to the votes of the Clarity Act. I don't think it will, though. They're saying that this is that you've seen deposit flight and you'll see more deposit flight. There's not been evidence of deposit flight, so it's not true. The second point is, I think we think of our money market funds and savings accounts differently than we do our transaction accounts. If people have PayPal stored value on PayPal today, they think of that as different than their long-term savings with a money market mutual fund. The truth is the banking industry is still fighting the fight over money market mutual funds from the early 80s. Fidelity invented the product. They fought like mad against the product. They lost that war. Money markets are now offered by banks. I think likewise, you're going to see yields on these stablecoin products or some return of value to the users of stablecoin products, and banks will be offering it. I think you're going to see that in very short order post passage of the Clarity Act. So you're going to see a changed universe for banks, and that is just what the marketplace is demanding, what consumers are demanding, even though the banking lobbyists are raising their ugly heads this summer trying to say differently.
Yeah, how are you going to save face here, right? People want something better, and you want to keep things status quo. You don't want things to change. You want to keep making billions of dollars off of regular people trying to move money, creating that friction. Blockchain technology solves so many issues and reduces costs and gets things there instantaneously. And people want more from financial institutions. And if they don't give them, I don't don't know how much longer they will be financial institutions. Customers will go to where the newest technology is, where they get the most value, the most bang for their buck. And it'll be an interesting next like 2 to 3 years in the banking industry. I think banks that don't adopt the technology, they're not going to be banks very much longer. All right, here's another clip from this gentleman was actually really good. I believe he's the CEO of Noah CEO, Shah Ramazani. Let me play it.
To me, it seemed as though Coinbase was the one that was charging ahead with this whole rewards story. It really wanted to build that into the business model, try and steal bank deposits, effectively trying to encourage the money across from the banking sector. Is it a genuine threat that just because you get a reward on a stablecoin that you would move money out of the banking system because you are getting paid something for that store of deposits?
I think the threat is, I would say, maybe there, but not as big. Yeah, it's a genuine threat, but I think behind the scenes, we don't know what's actually happening, because potentially the US, the banking lobby is trying to push this, but then to trade favors in return. We also have the Durbin Act, which is basically reducing interchange for banks. So we don't know exactly what's happening. I personally don't think it's that of a big deal. I think capital flight with rewards might be around 1 or 2%. But again, net, it will grow the dollar. It will grow the expansion of dollar. But of course, I think the banking lobby just realized with the Genius Act, they gave too much away. Now it's time to step in and really make sure that we get things right, but also trade other things in return.
Let me continue here. This is a longer clip of the same gentleman.
I think everyone is split right now what it really means, but it seems that it's more complicated than how the Genius Act works. And it all comes down to two issues, right? There is the ethics part of the Clarity Act, and then there is the what happens with the rewards. And really why this is so important, because the ethics splits the Democrats, and I come to that later, and then the how the rewards gets done splits Republicans. Because if the Republicans were united, they would have gone with the vote. If the Democrats would have blocked it, they would have blamed the Democrats, saying they don't want to support crypto, and then they would have got all the crypto funding and then use that for the midterm. So we're really at that stage, and I'm happy to double down on why we have the splits here.
Yeah. I mean, delve into a bit more detail for us on that.
So let's say on the how the rewards are happening right now. So the Genius Act was kind of, the banks realized they gave too much away. So they said you can't give yield to stablecoin issuers. You can give it to customers because that would compete with our business. Okay, but then there were not enough clarification around the loopholes, and the loopholes are around rewards. So basically, people say, okay, we don't give yield, but you know what we're going to do? We're going to give rewards, and that basically undermines what the banks were trying to achieve. Now they're trying to bring that into the Clarity Act, and the banking lobby is basically heavily, especially let's say the Republicans. A lot of them have constituents, right? They have the communal bank, they have state banks who are really concerned about this. So that needs to be get right to unite the Republicans. And then on the Democratic side, you have the ethics, which is about basically if the president and officials are allowed to issue stablecoins or allowed to be involved in any of that. And that's where the White House is currently pushing back. The Democrats don't want to compromise because Democrats already split, the progressives and you have the more established. So they want to make sure maintain unity during the midterms. That's where the tricky part is coming right.
And so right now you have about 7 Republicans who said they're not on board with the current version of the Clarity Act. That would take us from 53 down to about 46. You also have Mitch McConnell, who's been too sick to vote. So there's about 45 Republicans that we know of right now that will support this current of the version of the Clarity Act. And you would need 15 Democrats to vote in support. And so there was also today, Friday, you're going to get this on Saturday morning. There was supposed to be an SEC meeting to help kind of set and move forward with crypto policy here in the United States, and the SEC had to cancel that at the last second. A. Garassi said, hot take on the SEC abruptly canceling tomorrow's planned meeting on crypto. Perhaps certain influential senators came to their senses and realized the SEC would move forward with on crypto innovation with or without Congress. If so, it would bode well for the Clarity Act passing, basically saying the SEC and the CFTC had said, senators, if you're not going to do anything here, we will give the industry what it needs to be successful in the United States. And senators are they're worried about losing their power here, because if the Clarity Act doesn't go up for a vote, obviously you're going to have that fair shake money pointed at probably every Democrat who's kind of held up the Clarity Act up to this point. And so, senators are playing a very dangerous game here. And if you ask for too much, the whole house of cards could come tumbling down. Last but not least, this is a clip from Representative Brian Steele, and stresses the importance of the Clarity Act.
The currency of the Senate is floor time. And so I thought it was actually a really positive move that Senate Majority Leader Thune has has called that the clarity, market structure legislation, and digital assets will have time on the floor. This is the chance for the Senate to address the bill head on. It's so important that this legislation passes. The U.S. needs to remain the world leader in the financial markets, in particular in the digital assets space. The United States has been the innovator in financial services for now over 100 years, and our economy across the board has benefited from this. Consumers deserve to have protection in the space. We need to make sure innovation is happening in the United States, that we're outcompeting countries like China, and it's a positive move that the Senate is bringing this up for floor time.
All right, guys, if you made it to the end, like, share, comment. That helps to get the video in front of more people. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. Have a great weekend. It's always incredible to spend this time with you, and I really, really appreciate it. All right, I'll see you next time. Aloha.